Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching how to make a crochet dress. This dress is heavy on the texture, featuring the Trinity Stitch, and a form fit for showing off a modern neckline to keep you looking chic. Speaking of, if you like keeping it chic with your crochet, you're in the best place. We have hundreds of modern crochet patterns with many more coming on the way, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 650 grams of yarn, and that's 800 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 6mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your recent food hack that you may have discovered. For me, it's mixing protein powder with Greek yogurt. It's a great way to get protein and you save a few bucks. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 3 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, and Trinity Stitch. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this dress started, we are all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 6mm hook and start off by making an odd number chain that reaches from about an inch underneath our underarm down to our waist. I need a total of 7 inches or 18 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain of 25. Now that we have our chain, we're going to get started with our Trinity Stitch. So after that last chain, we're going to block it off and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and we're going to start our first Trinity Stitch with a single crochet into that chain that we blocked off. So into that second chain from our hook, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. That's a single crochet. Now to do our first Trinity Stitch set, we're all going to start by inserting our hook into that same chain that our single crochet is worked into. So insert your hook, yarn over, and pull up a loop. From here, we're going to be pulling up a loop into the following 2 chains as well. So into that next chain, pull through for 3 loops on our hook, into that next chain, pull through for 4 loops on our hook. Once we have those 4 loops, we are going to yarn over, pull through all 4, and then to close off our Trinity Stitch set, we're going to chain 1. Now that's always going to be how we do our first Trinity Stitch, starting with a single crochet. To do the following Trinity Stitch, we're going to be inserting our hook into that same stitch that our previous Trinity Stitch was worked into. So as you can see, this is mine. We're going to insert, pull through for 2 loops on our hook. We ultimately want 4 loops on our hook, so into the following 2 chains, we're going to pull up those 2 loops as well. Into that following chain, insert, pull up a loop. Into that following chain, insert, pull up a loop. When we have those 4, we're going to yarn over, pull through all 4, and then to finish our Trinity Stitch, chain 1. Now let's do the next one a little bit quicker, but a really quick tip that I have is when we're doing our Trinity Stitch, make sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every loop that we pull up or after every chain, otherwise the following row could be too tight to work into. So inserting our hook into the last stitch that our Trinity Stitch was worked into, we're going to insert, pull up a loop, into that following chain, insert your hook, pull up a loop, into that following chain as well, pull up a loop. When we have those 4 loops, pull through all 4, and then chain 1. Continue doing our Trinity stitch until you have 2 chains left. Leave down our Trinity stitch all the way down, and we should have 1, 2 chains left. To do our last Trinity stitch, we're going to start it off like all the other ones. So start by inserting our hook into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch is worked into. Pull through, and we want to pull up 4 loops on our hook. So into that following chain or the second to last, pull through, and then into that following chain or the last, pull through. When we have those 4 loops on our hook, pull through all 4, and from here we're going to single crochet into that last stitch into our chains. So the last stitch that our Trinity stitch is worked into. So insert your hook, pull through with a single crochet. Now that is going to be how we always end our Trinity stitch row, but in the case for this pattern, after every odd number row, for this portion, we're going to do an increase. So after that single crochet row, we're also going to do a half double and a double into that same last chain. So inserting into that same last chain with a half double, and then with a double. Just like that. And we're only going to be increasing into every odd number row. So for the following row, all we're going to do is chain 1, flip our work, and then repeat with no increase. So getting started on the first one, into the last stitch from our previous row, start with a single crochet, and then with our first Trinity stitch set. So into that same stitch that our single crochet is in, insert, pull up a loop, into the following stitch, pull up a loop, and then into the stitch right after, pull up a loop. When we have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1 to secure. Now let's do the following Trinity stitch. Into that last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch is worked into, insert, pull through, into that following stitch, pull through, and then into the stitch right after that, pull through. When we have those 4 loops, yarn over, pull through all 4, and do a chain 1. Continue doing our Trinity stitch, making our way all the way down until we have 2 stitches left. Being nearly finished with our row 2, we should have 2 stitches left. Now for some of us, it may look like we just have 1 stitch left, but if we flip our work over, we do have that extra stitch along the bottom. It's just curved underneath a little bit. But what we're going to do from here is close off our last Trinity stitch. So as a refresher, into that last stitch our previous Trinity stitch is worked into, pull through, into that second to last, pull through, into that last, pull through all 4, and since this is an even number row, we're going to insert a single crochet into that same last stitch, and that's it. No increases because we need this to be blunt. Just as a refresher again, chain 1 into the last stitch from our previous row, single, and then our first Trinity stitch, and then our following Trinity stitch, and continue doing this until we have 2 stitches left. We're nearly finished with our row 3. Let's just do the last Trinity stitch and increase together again once more. So into the last stitch that our previous Trinity stitch was worked into, pull up a loop, into that second to last, pull up a loop, into that last, pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through all 4, and then start by single crocheting into that same last stitch, and then also do a half double and double into that same last stitch. And that's it. Continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until this portion can stretch from mid-underarm over to the middle of our chest. And I'll meet you back along the top. The first half of my front panel is finished. I have a total of 13 rows, and my width is 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now we're going to mirror everything we did here on the other side, and instead of doing increases into every other row, we're going to do decreases. Since we're along the top, we're going to start with a decrease of 3 half double crochets, so chain 2 and flip your work. So how we're going to do this decrease is yarn over. Insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through, into that following stitch, pull through, and then into that following stitch, pull through for a total of 5 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 5 of those loops, and that is our decrease. We're going to continue to do our Trinity stitch per usual. So to do the first one, we're going to insert our hook into that last stitch that our previous decrease was worked into. So start from here. We're going to insert, pull through, following stitch, pull through, following stitch, pull through. Yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1. Continue doing our Trinity stitch all the way down. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and then do our Trinity stitch all the way back up. I made my way down with my first decrease row and made my way back up with my Trinity stitch row, because remembering we're decreasing only into every other row. Since we're along the top, we're going to start the following row with a decrease again. So chain 2 and flip your work. As a refresher, yarn over, insert your hook into the last stitch from our previous row, pull through, second stitch, pull through, third stitch, pull through. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. That is our decrease. And then start with our Trinity stitch and make our way all the way down. Continue to repeat our 2 previous rows now until we have the same amount of rows as the first half of our front panel. So I had a total of 13 rows, so I'm going to do an additional 13 rows for my decrease portion. When we have that, I will do a chain up of 1 and cut and meet you back. The entirety of my front panel is finished. I have a total of 26 rows, and my width is 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. Right before we get started on the second panel, we're going to single crochet across the top of our piece. So let's all start by inserting our hook into the top corner stitch, working towards the top. Insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and then do a chain up of 1 to secure. We're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochet into every side row until we reach the point. This is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook into there, and if you'd like to weave in your tail end as you go, place that over your hook, and then single crochet. This is my following side row. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook into there with 2 single crochets. So there's my first, into that same top loop. There is my second. Continue doing this until we reach the last row right before the point. Now that we've reached the point, we're going to do a chain 1 because that's the top point, and insert our stitch marker into there, and then continue alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets, working our way down, starting with 1 single crochet. So just to do the first set, find your first side row, insert your hook in through that top loop with 1 single crochet. Find our following side row, insert your hook in through there with 2 single crochets. And continue doing this until we don't have any more side rows left, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. Quick tip, we should have the same amount of stitches on both sides of our stitch marker. Our single crochet row is finished on one panel. Then we're going to repeat the same thing. So the same amount of chains, making the same amount of increase and same amount of decrease rows, plus the single crochet row for the back panel. When we have the second panel finished, I will meet you back. Now that we have both our front and back panel finished, let's seam our sides. Start by inserting your hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through everything, do a chain up of 1 to secure. Insert your hook into the first stitch into the front panel. Insert your hook into the next stitch into the back panel. And to weave in your tail ends, place your tail end over your hook, and then single crochet once. Let's do this again. Into the next stitch into the front panel, insert, into the next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single. Continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left. Do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side. Now that everything's seamed together, let's get started on our waistband, and that's going to start with a single crochet row. Inserting your hook into any side row along the bottom, insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now we're going to single crochet across the bottom. So we're still going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, just like how we did for the single crochet row that went up to the point. So just to do the first one, this is my first side row right here. I'm going to insert my hook, place my tail end over my hook to weave in my tail ends, starting with 1 single crochet, and this is my following side row. I'm going to insert my hook into there with 2 single crochets. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Continue alternating between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, and then slip stitch into that chain space. And this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this piece can stretch. So when we're finished with the row, try it on. If it's too tight, redo some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, redo some stitches with a tighter grip. Now that our single crochet row is done, we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our waistband to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 6. After our chain, we're going to do a slip stitch row. So block off that last chain, do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook. Insert. When we have those 2 loops, gently yarn over, pull through both loops. That's our first slip stitch. Let's do another. Into that following chain, insert, yarn over, pull through both. Continue putting a slip stitch into every chain, remembering not to tug too tightly, otherwise the falling row could be too tight to work into. Connecting our first row into the base, now that it's finished, we're going to find that next available stitch into the base, slip stitch it into there to close this first row. To work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, and flip our work. Those 2 slip stitches worked into the base don't count as a stitch, that's just to connect it. We're now going to do back loop slip stitches. So find the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again. Into that following stitch's back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, insert, pull through. Continue putting 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Our row 1, 2, and 3 are finished. We're going to connect it into the base once more. So find that next available stitch into the base, slip stitch into there to close our row 3. Then to work our way up to a row 4, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, flip our work, and continue putting 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Continue to repeat these 2 rows with no increases and no decreases until we don't have any more stitches left to work into the base. Our back loop slip stitch rows are all finished. Now we're ready to seam it together, so first things first, make sure that our work is still flipped right side out. We're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, yarn over, pull through everything, and now we're going to do our outside loop slip stitch seam. So inserting your hook into that first stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop. Into the next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over, pull through all 3 of those loops. Let's do that again. Into the next stitch into the front panel, insert into the front loop. Into the next stitch into the back panel, insert into that back loop. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Continue doing this, making our way all the way down. When we don't have any more stitches left, do a chain up of 1 and cut. We've seamed our waistband. Now we're going to single crochet across the bottom of our waistband so that we can prep for the skirt. Making sure that our work is slipped right side out, right side up, we're going to insert our hook into any one of the side rows along the bottom. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row. This divot is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook in through there with a single crochet. My following side row is this raised row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert my hook in through there as well. Continue doing this, making our way all the way around and then slip stitch into that chain space. And a quick tip, we will have the same amount of single crochets as side slip stitch rows. Our single crochet row is finished. Now we're going to make an odd number chain the length that we'd like the bottom of this dress portion to be. So you can make this long or short. I'm going to make a chain that's 12 inches or 30 centimeters, and that's going to be a chain of 45 for me. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our Trinity stitch back. So I'll meet you back at the end of the row. We've made our way all the way up with our Trinity stitch. Now we're going to connect it. So what we're going to do is find that next available stitch and slip stitch into there to connect our first row. That slip stitch doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to connect it. And then just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. Also doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. And then that's it. We're going to do our Trinity stitch, making our way back down. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our two previous rows, connecting it into the base the same way that we just did, with no increases and no decreases. And I'll meet you back when we don't have any more stitches left to work into the base. I've made my way all the way around with my Trinity stitch. I don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it together. And this is going to be a single crochet seam, so make sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. Insert your hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. Pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and just to do the first one, we're going to find that first stitch into the front panel and insert our hook. We're also going to find that next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook in through there, and then single crochet. Continue until we don't have any more stitches left, and then do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now that our bottom's seam, the next thing we're going to do is our strap. I've already gotten one of mine done, so let's get started on the other one. First off, let's make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to insert our hook into that top corner stitch that we have along the top, or that chain space. We're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and then do a chain up of 1 to secure. From here, we're going to be working our way down to our side seam, putting 1 single crochet into every stitch for the width that we'd like for our strap to be. I'd like for mine to be about 1.5 inches or 3 centimeters, so I'm going to be doing a total of 8 single crochets. Now that our single crochet row is finished, let's do a back loop slip stitch row, so just chain 1 and flip our work. All we're going to do is put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, insert your hook, pull through everything, continue putting 1 into every stitch. And the strap is going to be all back loop slip stitches, so chain 1 and flip your work. And continue doing our back loop slip stitch rows until we get a strap that can reach up and over our shoulder to the back panel's corner stitch along the top. I will meet you back right after an even number row. My strap is all finished. I have a total of 30 rows and my length is 6 inches or 15 centimeters unstretched. And now we're ready to seam it to the back panel. So first things first, make sure that our work is flipped right side out because we're going to be doing an outside loop slip stitch seam. Insert our hook into the top corner stitch within the back panel, yarn over, and pull through everything. This is going to be the same seam as our waistband, so let's just do the first one. Find that first stitch into the front panel and insert only in through that front loop. Find the next stitch into the back panel, insert in through that back loop, pull through all 3 loops, and repeat until we don't have any more stitches left. Then repeat our strap on the other side. Now that both of our straps are finished, the last thing we're going to have to do is our underarm detail. So we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to be inserting our hook into any one of the side rows along our strap for the length that we'd like for our underarm detail to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So I inserted my hook into the 6th side row from the base. So just to count it together, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for me. I'm now going to insert my yarn onto my hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, working down towards the base. Just to do the first, this is my first side row right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook into there with a single crochet. This is my following side row, into that top loop with another single crochet. Continue this until we reach the base. Now that we're at the base, we're going to slip stitch into that following stitch into the base, working down towards our side seam. So this is my following stitch. I'm going to insert my hook in through there with a slip stitch to connect it, and that doesn't count as a stitch, that's just a connect. And then work our way up to the following row with a slip stitch into that next stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work. And we're going to put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So find the last stitch from our previous row, insert into that back loop, pull through everything, next back loop, pull through everything, and continue this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, chain 1, flip our work, and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Continue doing this until we reach our side seam. Do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we're going to repeat on the other side of our panel. And then I will meet you back so that we can seam both of our underarm details together. So we have both of our underarm details all finished up. We are right where our side seam is, and now we're going to seam it together. And this is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam, so let's all make sure that our work is flipped right side out. We're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and let's do the first seam. Start by finding that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop. Find the next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop, pull through all 3 loops, and continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. And now that our underarm detail is finished along both sides, we are all done. Last thing we're going to have to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye!